So, hello everybody. It's Alec here, and welcome back to this episode of the Smashing Brands podcast. I have a special guest today. I have John Gumas.
Hi, Alec. So nice to be here.
It is so nice to have you. Now, the first question I always like to ask everyone is, how do you spend your time on planet Earth?
Well, mostly I spend my time doing what my wife tells me to do.
Right.
So when she's she's run out of things, you know what? I like to play baseball. I like to work out. I like to study on the industry. I mean, believe it or not, kind of a sick thing, but I love learning more about the marketing and branding industry and what the latest techniques are. So I'm always brushing up on that. And you know, it's been most of my time just working on my company, and I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, you are an advertising pioneer, I would say, to some extent. I mean, out of everybody, I've interviewed a lot of marketing people on the podcast thus far, and I think you have the longest. I mean, you've been in business the longest, right? So you were coming on
Wow,
celebrating 40 years. Is that right?
that's right. And I was 12 years old when I started, just so you know. I'm kidding, really. No,
I
you're
mean,
right. I
you
can't
look
believe
pretty
I
good.
can't believe it. I can't believe it's been 40 years. It's gone by so fast, and it's still fun, right? It's still exciting. It's still fun. It's got great clients doing great things for them, helping them take their companies to the next level. And it still excites me. Yeah, can't wait to get to work every morning.
I love it. I mean, well. My next question was going to be, well, what age did you start your company?
Well, you're gonna make me reveal my age. I was
Yeah.
early 20s. I was probably 23 when I 20 23 24 when I started my company.
Yeah, it's really interesting because right now marketing agencies have become so popularized and everybody seems to be starting an agency, like Ty Lopez, he came up with that course a while back and you got other guys like I don't know if you know who Iman Gadji is. These people that are just making like they're selling the business opportunity of starting a marketing and advertising agency. And it's become so popular over the last 5 years. But back then, 1984, it wasn't at all. Like,
No, it wasn't, but I in college, right? That was my major, was marketing. A business major with an emphasis in marketing and advertising. So, that's what I studied. And throughout college, I worked at either an internship or then those turned into jobs for ad agencies.
yeah,
So by the time, I graduated from college, I had a lot of experience, right? Probably had 3 years of solid experience working at ad
yeah,
agencies. Um, yeah, I started my agency young, but I felt like I was seasoned when I did start it.
yeah. No, that was similar with me too. Almost 40 years later, not quite. I started my agency probably about 6 years ago. But yeah, in college, I had done a lot of internships, had a lot of experience, and I was like, hey, like I I'm not going to find the job that I want, so I might as well just create it. But I want to know what was your inspiration around starting your agency back in 1984?
Well, it's funny. I think I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? So it's in my blood. I always wanted to do it. But the catalyst was, I was working at a big agency, and
Yep.
I was an account person there, and so I had a pretty good job. It paid pretty well,
Hmm.
and the agency would get these clients, or these clients prospects would come in, and I'd sit in these new business meetings, right, in the agency, the big posh conference room,
Yeah.
and these companies would come in with these great ideas, and the first thing, all right, the execs at the agency would ask, not even it was so I thought it was so cold, like, how much money do you have to spend? And if they didn't give them the right number, they would immediately just stop the meeting and say, sorry, we can't help you. And those prospects would leave. So this would happen all the time. And there was one time in particular where there was a prospect came in, and I greeted him, and we kind of hit it off. And he went into the meeting, talked about what he did, and at the end, the agency exec said, "Sorry, you don't have enough money." So I gave this guy my card. I said, "Here, thank you." I just, he asked me for my card, excuse me. Then he walked out.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks later, he called me and said, "You know what?" He says, "I was really impressed with you. You really understood what you were doing." He says, "Have you ever thought of maybe, taking on my business yourself?" And you know what? Hence, a few weeks later, a few months, I forget what it was, Gumas was born. And it
Mm,
was born under this auspice of helping the underdog, helping
mm,
what we refer to now as challenger brands,
yeah.
helping challenger brands take on their industry gorillas and win, because the big agencies just they only know how to market when they have lots and lots of money. But that's not 99% of the companies out there. They have
Yeah.
money to spend, but they're being outspent by bigger companies, so they can't use conventional strategies and tactics. And so we've spent the last 40 years perfecting this methodology that we
Mm,
call challenger brand marketing, and it's trademarked to us. We own it. Written 2 books on the subject,
yeah.
speak about it all the time, and that's our niche. And we've had clients for a long, long time that started out as challenger brands, but are now major brands that we've helped build, and that's just our unique position. That's our niche. That's our methodology. That's how we're different.
Yeah,
And I
I
say
love
that's kind of what helped make us going strong 40 years later.
Yeah, so I'm curious, back in, the 80s, what was traditional, hey, high budget marketing versus challenger marketing? And then I'm going to ask you later on what that looks like today.
All right, now you're testing my memory, right? That was 40 years ago. All right. So 40
Direct
years from
mail.
now, 40 years from now, I'm going to contact you and remember, I've asked you what you asked me today. See if you remembered.
I hope you're alive.
Um, yeah, you know what? It was certainly before the digital age. And agencies, as you know, have gone through a massive transition
Yeah.
from traditional to digital. And back then it was TV, radio, it was direct mail, it was trade shows, it was all those things that were outside of today's digital. Um, but yeah, big budget. Yeah, gosh, I wouldn't even know what a big budget is. I think back then maybe it was like 100,000 or above was considered a budget for this agency. But folks would come in with half of that. But that's 40 years ago, so that was a big number, and
Mm.
you can do a lot. You can do a lot with that. But yeah, that's 40 years ago, taking me back memory lane here.
Yeah. And now let's say today, I feel like a lot of people are using, besides like, let's say like a Super Bowl ad or something like that, I feel like a lot of both big companies and smaller companies are using similar advertising platforms. It's just dependent on how much they spend on them, right? Or what do you feel are some of these more challenger marketing techniques that are
Well,
getting, yeah,
yeah, let me kind of change the conversation right there,
okay.
because for challenger brands, it's not about which platform you're on. It's not about, it's all about what you say. All right. Because I am a firm believer is I don't care how much money you spend on what platforms, how often, if you're not saying the right thing to the
Mhm.
right people,
Yeah.
positioning your brand, getting them motivated, to respond and engage. I
Mhm.
don't care how much money you spend, it's not going to work the way you want it to work. So a lot of companies jump right into that. Okay, where are we going to advertise? What are we going to do? At first,
Yeah.
our first question is, whoa, slow down here. You know, yeah, who are you? Why does somebody pick you over a competitor? And we have a process that we take all our clients through to determine that. And because something unique happens 100% of the time with 100% of our clients. What they think, what they truly think in their heart, what their
Mhm.
message is not what their prospects need their message to be.
Ah,
Think
okay.
about that. There's always a disconnect, and it's because this kind of this natural phenomena happens when you are in a business, in a company, in an organization of any type. You live it day in and day out. You know it so well. You assume you assume people who've never heard of your organization before have the same level of knowledge. So as a result, what the way you would describe it may not be what that person needs to hear. And that's the
Yeah.
most common mistake we see. Then companies start advertising, they're spending money, and they, all of a sudden, 6 months down the road, 8 months, 9 months, they go, this isn't working. Well, it's not working, not because you're in the wrong vehicles. It's not working because you're not saying the right thing. And the right thing really involves three core elements.
Huh?
It's saying what your prospects need to hear you say, and this is determined through research.
Hmm.
It's understanding what the core of your brand is, right? So you're saying what is true to the core of your brand. And the third part is looking at your competitors, your direct competitors. So you're saying something unique to what they are saying. So those 3 points of data, right in the middle of those three, is the core, the essence of the message of the organization, the essence of the brand. So we would argue until you get that message right, I really don't, doesn't matter how much money you spend, because it's never going to do what you need it to do until you get that message right.
No, absolutely. I love that. And so what has the journey been with your own marketing for Gumas with messaging?
Well, you know what? We are the champions of the challenger brand.
Mhm.
Challenger brand marketing is as we talked earlier, is the methodology we created. We have trademarked it. We own it. We've written books on it. So we are the country's foremost authorities on that subject. So if an AT&T or a Budweiser or an Apple computer come to us, we're probably not the right people for them.
Yeah.
But the person who's starting out a beer company or has a smaller beer company up against Anheuser-Busch, or they have a smaller computer company up against Apple, or they have those types of companies are challenger brands. Those are the companies that we can do some really good stuff for, and that's our niche. And we'll take them through an entire process to help them grow their company.
Have you had an opportunity where you could have gotten business from a really big client, but you said no because you felt that they weren't a challenger brand?
Um, Not no, but I'll give you a couple of examples. Is like one of the I'm not gonna say the name, but one of the largest medical companies in the world. If I said
Hmm.
the name, everyone would know who it was. They came to us not to brand their big company, but
Yeah.
they had a vertical. They had a vertical within their company that was struggling. And it was struggling because all they knew was conventional type of big money advertising. And they came to us and said, "We want you to help us with this vertical company that we just can't get going." And so we did, and we turned it around, and it's a huge success today. But that's an example of how a company understood the difference between who they were, right, and they couldn't really do this smaller vertical, the smaller satellite company on their own because they didn't know how to play in that arena.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to know what's been your favorite client success story?
Wow. So many. I tell you, there's so many, but I love the community, right? I love giving back to the community. I love that part of it. So I would say my personal favorite is the San Francisco Giants, the baseball team in San Francisco,
Yeah.
their community fund,
Hmm.
and which was and we started working with them 20 plus years ago as a small little kind of charity. It's not charitable, but it's their charitable arm. It's still part of the baseball club. But we helped reposition this charitable organization into what is today the most successful sports philanthropy in the United States. That includes every sport: baseball, football, basketball, soccer, and and just doing that in a very systematic way, helping them grow because as they grow, they help more and more and more people in the community. I think now they serve 40,000 kids. They go everywhere from like almost the tip of Southern California all the way through Oregon and Washington.
Hmm.
That so So the long answer to that was my personal favorite because that was one that we our services really helped a lot of people in you know the folks that really needed help.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds really rewarding, like helping, a foundation like that. So not only they can be successful, but how do they base their own success off the success of the people that they're helping, right? So,
Right.
you
And I
know,
wish everyone would do that, right? I wish every ad agency, every marketing firm would do that. Pick a charity and help them be successful, help them to serve more people, help them to do, more good. Because, in this world, we need more good, the way I see it.
no, yeah, absolutely. So I want to know, like, as a CEO, like, well, are you the CEO? Are you just the founder at this point? What's your title?
CEO.
CEO. Okay. And then
I
Craig.
like I like to refer myself as the good looks of the organization.
Right. So what's been your biggest, what have been like, I would say your biggest lesson that you've learned over, the last few years on how to be a better leader?
That's such a good question. I would say treat your people right.
Hmm.
Treat your people right. Everyone is an individual, right? My job is to create a culture in my company. It's to create a culture where people feel they can grow, feel that they can say what they need to say honestly without any, backlash, feel that they can do what they need to do to better their lives. So yeah, I would say building a culture and how you build that culture is the most important thing that I do. I'll throw out the marketing and strategy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We do that, but you can't do it without great people. So as a leader, right, you
Hmm.
have to figure out how you do that and how you get a team working together. Because a team that loves working together and loves what they're doing and feels satisfied personally is a team that is really going to perform. And so not only will the company see it and all the other folks within the company, but all of our clients see it. I have clients telling me all the time how much they love working with our team because they just seem happy, right? They just seem so willing to help. So yeah, I would put that at the top, Alec. That's number one.
Yeah. Who taught you though who are some like your coaches and mentors and people that helped you build a culture, helped your company be successful? Like, because people don't just get here on their own, right? So what have been those influences for you?
Let me start with the ones that maybe weren't positive but really influenced me.
Okay.
I'll go back to original story, right? When I was working at the ad agencies, the big ones before I started my own company.
Hmm.
I remember the way some of these executives would treat the people around them, myself included, right? Just the way they would treat them.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, as this was happening, I said, I need to start watching this closely because this is what you never want to do.
Yeah.
All right. The way you treat people, the way you talk down to people, the way you make them feel every day, you
Yeah.
never want to do that. That I'd say that for me was probably my biggest lesson. And it didn't come from a positive, it came from a negative. So
Yeah.
I think you can always learn from that too. And as you're looking at different styles and you're looking at different things around, you look at the negatives, but you take notice of the negatives. So you can say that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a little different.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably my number one influencer. And uh, in terms of learning the business, you learn the business, right? There's all sorts of ways you can learn the business, but it's how you treat your people, how you treat others. I think that's something, your personal reputation is something that is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about reputation. When you say reputation, I think a personal brand, you know?
Mhm.
So what is your personal brand inside your organization and what is your personal brand outside of the organization? And what are some of the commonalities and differences?
Well, I would say that my personal brand is
Mhm.
is the same. Like any brand, you don't have two brands, you have one brand.
Yeah.
And you know, without trying to sound arrogant or anything, and I'm gonna do my best not to, but
Yeah.
I feel that my brand is one that, people can talk to me. I'm
Mhm.
fair. I
Yeah.
listen. I will be honest. I will always try to help. Um, and just try to do the right thing. And in this business, sometimes it's there's a lot of temptation to not do the right thing, but you always have to focus on doing the right thing. And I would say that that is my brand. My brand is just someone you can count on, someone you can rely on, and who's never going to let you down. And I hope that translates into my company, and I believe it does.
Yeah. I mean, been going strong for a long time, right? I want to know
Yeah.
who's with you the longest.
Oh my gosh. So our president, Craig Alexander, has been with us like 13 years. We have account manager, Reed Ipson, 14 years. Our operations manager has been with us over 10 years. It's been a long. We've had a lot of people retire,
Yeah.
through the
Sure.
company, and I'm the one standing still. But yeah, it's we have a lot of long tenured employees that I love to death, and I'm just proud to have them.
Yeah. I mean, what's the future for you? I mean, so how are you looking into your later years of your life, you know? Like what are your goals, aspirations, dreams at this point?
Well, you know what? I don't consider myself in the later years of my life, I think is the first thing, right? So I
Uh-huh.
still I still have the enthusiasm and the energy to do it. But
Yeah.
what I'm finding though, I need to start to step back a little bit, not
Mhm.
to step back, but to allow others in my company to accelerate higher.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at now, is just really allowing folks in my company to find themselves and grow, and without the shadow of me. I'm always there for them. They need me, but it's important for them to grow. And you know what? And they're very impressive, and they're doing a great job at it. So yeah, that's that. I think that's probably my aspiration, is just to, not step away. I love it too much, and I need to be part of it, but to be there for others to help them grow their careers.
Is there anything outside of the agency itself that you're looking to either spend more time or money at or something like that, outside passions? I know you got all the baseballs behind you.
Yeah, you know what? I love to play baseball. I played it all my life, and we're fortunate. A lot of our clients are sports related in our company, so we're lucky there. But
Yeah.
I love to travel. I love hanging out with my kids. I have three kids that are around the country, so I love visiting them. I love working out. I love doing, so it's in terms of, deep sea fishing or skydiving. No, no, nothing crazy like that. Just kind of, I just love, like I said, I'm just kind of, I enjoy what I'm doing.
How long did it take you to truly enjoy what you're doing? Because I know a lot of people start businesses for various reasons. They have seasons where they're really passionate about what they're doing, and then they're not passionate about it, and then they gain that again, and then they figure out some kind of niche or something that really excites them. What's the journey been like for you?
Yeah, and that's true, right? What you described is true. And when you're first starting out, you don't always know exactly where you're going to end up. You don't know exactly what your passions are. I think you learn those over time, and you
Yeah.
you you tend to appreciate them even more over time. That how lucky you were to have that. And what I tell, I speak a lot at universities, and my kids and their friends, and you know, the one bit of advice I give them is, if what you have to try to do is find something you love to do, right? A passion. Don't always get a job because it pays a lot of money and you don't like doing it, because you will be going to work every day and be unhappy.
Yeah.
Find your passion, dig deep, search for it. And once you find it, that's your career. Make that your career, because the money will come and you'll never feel like you ever worked a day in your life. So I think
Mm.
most people never find that passion, or maybe they're not looking for it, or they're not, or take a side road and go into a career that they don't like, but they feel the money is good, or they had to do it for a reason. to me that's unfortunate. And so that's the one thing, it's just find your passion. And if you're lucky enough to find it, you'll never have to work a day in your life because every day is going to be, doing something you enjoy doing. But, with
Yeah.
that, the original question, I think when someone starts a business, it takes about 3, 4, maybe 5 years to really, you know, get things set to where you're going in the right direction, where you feel
Yeah.
confident that you've got it together. And some companies longer, some before, and this is an industry where over the years it's dealt a lot of huge changes, right? Industry changes to how we operate that many agencies didn't survive. I mean, you look at just the Great Recession that was a few years back. I think I know just in like San Francisco Bay Area, it's like 80% of the marketing firms went out of business. That's a massive
Wow.
number. It's a massive number, and I don't know what it was nationally. You look at COVID recently, right? That was a big change. Even go back further, you look at remember I don't know if you remember, but the whole desktop publishing before, when computers came on board and
Mm.
all of a sudden everything that agencies did, their money makers, their production, right, the services, those all went away because it was now digital.
Yeah.
Um, even fast forward to social media and everything, how that is almost uh, diminished this huge industry that was traditional media. So there's so many of those changes over the years
Yeah.
that agencies have had to reinvent themselves, and most agencies, didn't plan for that, or no, most agencies couldn't deal with the change and didn't make it through. So it's I think this industry is unlike many in many other industries where there's been a
Mm.
lot of those moments in time where agencies had to reinvent themselves.
Right. And I wanted to ask you, what do you feel like was one of the most challenging parts in your life that, you overcome that was really hard in the moment, but turned out to be the greatest blessing?
Wow. Wow. That is a really good question. Um, and I'd have to think hard on that, but I am going to give you an answer. It may not be the top one, but it's going to be the ones I can think of. I can remember having, clients, clients that I thought were good clients
Yeah.
that paid a lot of money and did a lot of things. And then for whatever reason, usually what happens to us is they either get sold, right? So you get sold and someone, does whatever they do with the company. Well, the first thing they do is they change marketing firms.
Right.
And I remember having a big client like that all of a sudden just announce we're selling. And within probably 60 days, that client was gone. And that was a big amount of revenue.
Yeah.
Um, but but I'm a firm believer that from everything that's negative, something good comes. So in this case, one of their competitors uh, heard about them and they called us right away and said, "You know what? We've been following all the great work that this company's been doing. Would you be interested in doing that for us?" And we said, "Sure, oh, absolutely." And then probably like a month after that, the CEO of the company that was bought was no longer the CEO there because the purchaser had their own CEO. He landed at another company and he came to us and said, I'm here, I'm at this company. Will you come work for us?
Nice. Cool.
So it turned from this, one client that we lost that we thought was going to be, devastating to getting two other clients. And so, it's just, things, it's funny how the world works, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I would put that right up there. That was, that was an interesting story.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. So forgive me for not doing more research, but do you have kids?
Say that again.
Do you have kids?
I have 3 kids. Yes.
Okay, and a wife and all that stuff, family.
Yeah, I have a wife and all that stuff. Yes, a wife, 3 kids, and yeah, my kids are 30, 27, and 25, and they're one's in New
Jeez.
York, one's in LA, one's here in the Bay Area.
How are you able to manage all that kind of stuff? How are you like so you're running this company, you're having multiple young kids at one point, how did you juggle all of that while still, doing your thing?
Yeah, yeah. Now that's really good point. And it was harder than hell. It would be
Yeah,
the answer to that. But I can tell you, right? So you're younger, right? So you're younger. You don't have the advantage of maybe a little bit of more experience, right? That you set to handle the situation. So it is
yeah,
stressful. It was stressful on me. It was stressful on my wife. And luckily, she was very good and she was able to stay home and take care of the kids. But what I tried to do, and I didn't do this 100%, maybe 80 or 90%. I attended everything they did, every baseball game, every soccer game, every concert, every
yeah,
play, and it was really hard sometimes, right? When you're
yeah,
traveling. And so, I mean, for anyone out there listening who's in that situation where you're running an agency, you're an executive in an agency, you've got, you're working one and you have kids, you know what? The work will be there tomorrow. Your kids will not be. And they grow up fast. They grow up really fast and they need their parents. And so, you know what? Figure out a way to get the work done. Hopefully, you have a boss or a supervisor that allows you that flexibility.
yeah.
And I've always thought that was very, very important. And if you're in that situation, you know what? You'll get the work done. You'll get the work done, but don't miss out. Don't miss out because before you know it, they're grown-ups, and
Right.
it's a very, very special time. So yeah, but it was hard. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. It is difficult, but you got to make it work.
How long have you been married?
I've been married. Hold on, I'm doing math in my head. 30, almost 34 years.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. My parents have been married for around the same period. What's some advice that you have for finding the right partner?
Wow, I didn't realize I was a marital advisor here. You know what? I would just say
What's impressive?
marry your best friend. You know
Uh-huh.
what? Your best friend. And if you marry your best friend, then things will turn out. Be flexible. All
Mm,
right. It's marriage is a two-way street. You got to be flexible and it doesn't hurt to tell her every now and then, how beautiful she looks or compliment her every now and then and make sure she knows you're paying attention.
I love that.
Alec,
So
I tell you, it's the first time anyone's asked me for marital advice ever. So there you go. Congratulations to you. It's a first for me.
awesome. So maybe somebody's never asked you this question either, but so you waited till in your 30s to have kids,
Mhm.
right? So do you recommend, let's say, young entrepreneurs starting their businesses to wait until 30 and up to have kids, or when do you feel like, I know everybody's different, but what's your advice on that?
Yeah, and then that's a tough one because everyone is different. I can tell you for me, it was the right thing to do, to let my business kind of get seeded a little bit, get a foundation, let it start to grow a little bit and bring on some folks that would allow me to spend some time with my kids.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, having kids in my 30s, I appreciated them a lot more
Hmm.
than I think I would have in my 20s. Only because in your 20s, there's so much going on. You're trying to establish a career. There's all those pressures, and you add the
Yeah.
pressure of kids. In my opinion, I think it's kind of tough. But in your 30s now, you're rooted a little more. You have a little better sense of where you're going.
Yeah.
Maybe financially, you're a little more secure. Oh, by the way, the little buggers are expensive, so prepare yourself for that.
Right.
When you start paying, all their costs and schools and et cetera, et cetera. So you got to be prepared. So it worked out for me.
What's your take on college?
Well, you know what? I've got to be careful that answer because I'm on the board at San Francisco State University. So I got to be careful.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know what? I would say it's not for everyone.
Hmm.
It's not for everyone. And I think society right now, it tries to force every kid out of high school to go to college.
Yeah.
But and I think it's because colleges are such a massive industry. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
massive industry. So and with that, their college is right for many, many, many people,
Hmm.
but it's not for everybody. And I think right now things like learning a trade, learning something else that maybe you have a passion at. Let's say you always liked working on electric vehicles, I don't know, or you
Hmm.
like working on, aerospace or whatever. It's okay to skip college, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
and go do that if that is your passion. Right, that's the key. If your passion is to become an accountant, or your passion is to become a doctor, or that's great. But it depends on what your passion is, and just follow it. And so it doesn't always include, college.
Yeah, I think it's especially hard for people to know their passion at 18 years old,
Exactly.
which is why it makes college such a risky thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. Completely understand it. And
And maybe there's some reverse advice, which is if you don't know your passion, don't go to college, right? Because you don't want to be investing in something that you might not ever use.
well, or delay it. But the risk
Yeah.
with delaying it is you never go.
Yeah.
All right, you end up getting into a career, something happens, and you never go. But what college does teach you, it teaches you how to study. It teaches
Right.
you time management. It teaches you a lot of life skills
Working
that,
with
in
people.
addition, yeah, working with people, working in groups, in addition to whatever subject you're taking. So there's a lot of good it has to offer. But if you're going to postpone it and try something else, which is certainly an option, force yourself to go back if that option you chose isn't working out.
Yeah. Well, I have one more question for you, John. And that question is, so let's say it's the end of your life, you're on your deathbed, and you get to leave the world with three truths, three things that you know to be true about the world around you. What are they?
Wow. Be true to yourself, right? Be true to
Hmm.
your brand. Know who your brand is, what it is, and be true to it. Treat people like you want to be treated. And boy, the third one would be make time for your kids.
Hmm. I love that. You came up with those on the spot.
Well, I tell you, you asked me the most unique questions I've ever been asked. So kudos to you.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. Well, John, where can people follow you?
They can come to our website, gumas.com, gumas.com. You can find me, John Gumas, on whatever your favorite social media handle is. You just find me under John Gumas. And if you want to send me an email, it's jgumas@gumas.com.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks, Alex. Such a pleasure.